For a dog trainer, an e-collar is just another tool that we can use in our program. It's going to take the place of the leash, and we will start to substitute using the e-collar in the leash's place. This cannot be used to teach while we're working with the dog. They need to be taught prior to applying the e-collar. Once they've learned their skills and they're comfortably doing their skills, then we can use this in place of the leash. When you first take your collars out of the box and your transmitter out of the box, you want to charge them. Put them on the charger for 2 hours. They'll go to a full charge in that length of time, be ready to use. You'll know that when they need to be recharged, the light on your receiver will be blinking red, and the light on your transmitter when you press the button will be red instead of green. If you've got a green light here and a green light here, you got plenty of battery life. If you've got a red light that's blinking and you got a red light here, that means you can train a little bit longer, but you're going to need to get this thing on a charger pretty quickly. Okay, to turn the unit on, we're going to turn the receiver on. It has a on-off button on top of the receiver. You're going to press that button and the green light will start to blink saying that it is on. The transmitter does not have an on-off button. It is on demand. When you press a button, any of the 3 buttons that are on it, it's on, but when you release the button, it's off. So therefore, you don't have to turn this on and off. As soon as you turn this on, you want to send it a signal from the transmitter just to make sure that they're synced up. I'm pressing the continuous button right now, and you see a continuous red light here. That means that they are paired and they're ready to go. As you start to introduce your dog to the e-collar, one of the first things you want to do is put it on the dog. And tension and tightness here is very important. There's multiple ways to do this. My rule of thumb is I pull it to a specific hole on the collar strap where it's very tight, and I back out 1 hole. That allows you to get a finger underneath it, that you can get a finger under the collar, then you know it's not too tight, it's not strangling him. Once that is done, then it's time to do something fun. So immediately after you put your e-collar on your dog, it's time now to throw a tennis ball or throw a bumper and make him start to believe that when this goes on, we get to do something fun. So he looks forward to you putting an e-collar on. It is his uniform to get to go play in the game. So how do we get a dog to understand that this is nothing more than a leash? In our training, as we start to teach this dog, we're going to be applying leash pressure with our leash on his neck. That's where the leash will contact him. As we use the e-collar, it's going to be contacting the dog at the exact same spot, same location. So now each time that we give a tug on the leash, we're going to give a light bump with a transmitter to send the signal to the e-collar to give the dog the stimulation. It's just a light tap. Each time that we use a tug on the leash, we're going to tap him with the collar. And before too long, in his mind, these two are the leash and the e-collar are the exact same thing. There is no difference between them. Now with that, you need to be careful. Probably the first 2 weeks, we're going to have a min-max rule. No more than 5 stimulations per session, so that you can avoid overstimulating the dog and having him start to worry about this. But get at least 3 stimulations in so that he can start to learn the lesson we're trying to teach him, is that this and our leash are the exact same thing. As you start to stimulate your dog, you're going to use low levels of stimulation. And what we're looking for is a reaction from the dog. It could be him to stop and turn his head and look at you. What I typically look for is a little bit of head drop and a swallow response out of the dog. If you look closely, most of the time when you see that, they're saying, I understand, I accept. I know I've done something incorrect here. Once we see that response, then we're going to start to think about that level on our intensity and stay in that level. Anytime that you see your dog vocalizing, you're out of bounds and you need to turn that wheel down. Rule of thumb here though is to always use the minimum amount of pressure necessary to get the dog to respond and to stop what his instincts are trying to tell him to do. Used properly, this is much easier on the dog than a regular leash is because it's less contact, it's less intensity. But they've just been conditioned through training to understand they have to stop when they feel this. It's the word no to them. It tells them to stop their actions.
When I first got Sandy, she was an absolute nightmare. She wouldn't behave, she would dig holes in the yard, she would scratch at the furniture, she would bark all the time, just unruly. So I had a friend who was a dog trainer, and she suggested an e-collar. I was like, e-collar, isn't that not humane? Or I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I decided to give it a try. I purchased the PetSpy e-collar, and voila, Sandy's been a new dog. So I started the e-collar training, and gradually I started to see changes and improvements in the way her behavior was. I couldn't believe how fast Sandy started to change and respond to the training. Feel great. It made me feel great that I didn't have an uncontrollable dog in public, and I wasn't embarrassed to bring her in places.
Thanks for purchasing your new dog training system, Pet 998DBB. I'm now going to show you what you receive inside the box when you first get your package. This is the remote transmitter, your 2 collar receivers, nylon straps, 1 orange, 1 black, just to let you know the difference between channel 1 and channel 2, test light to test static shock, 2 sets of contact points, 1 for each receiver, and then this is your AC wall adapter, and this is your USB connector that goes in the bottom, and then this can actually go into this splitter, which then lets you charge both your receiver and your transmitter at the same time. And then lastly is your product menu. When using a training collar, always remember to use it for training and not to leave it constantly on the dog. As these contact points on the receiver can cause injuries like bed sores, or we refer to it as pressure narcosis. So always remember to not use the training collar continuously like a normal dog collar, but just for training. Now I will quickly show you how to pair your collar receiver to your transmitter, and then show you the basic functions of this unit. With this new 998DBB, we've changed a couple things. These are more readable, and it's made out of silicone instead of plastic. So I'll show you how to pair the receiver to the collar. So you start by putting it on channel 1. I usually just switch to vibration mode, but it doesn't matter. And then press and hold the power button. You'll see a solid green light. And then when that begins to flash and beep like it did there, you just press the Y button on your remote and it will beep again. It should now be paired, which it is. Now to pair the second one, all you do is switch to, press the 1-2 button and switch to channel 2. Do the exact same thing, turn it on, and then press and hold the power button for 5 seconds. It beeps, and then you press the Y button on your remote. And that's paired to channel 2, and this is paired to channel 2. Now I'll show you the functions. There's a few functions. First I'll show you the beep function, and then that's for the other receiver. The vibration for receiver 2, you just press the mode button, go to this symbol here, and then obviously here again. Now the static shock, it's currently at 0, so you want to move it off of 0 by using the dial on the side. Just for an example, we'll put it to 10. As you can see, when you press the Y button, the orange light flashes. Same with channel 2. This time it's on 100, so it'll be probably brighter, more solid. The last function, there is a light. Basically, by pressing this, it will make the light blink on the receiver, as you can see there, with receiver number 2, receiver number 1. And then there's also a light function on the top for this LED light on top of the transmitter, if you were looking for your dog or lost your keys or something like that. And that's all the functions of the system. Okay, I'm now going to show you the waterproof capabilities of our receivers by placing the receiver in the water and then using it. We'll put it to the vibration mode. As you can see, it's vibrating before. Put it in the water, and it's still vibrating while in the water. And now I'll show you, by taking it out, that the static shock function still works, even after being in the water. As you can see, the light is still glowing orange, indicating that static shock is working. That's it.
So you're shopping for an e-collar, probably because you told your dog no, but they just kept doing whatever it was anyways. Maybe you just want your dog to be able to run around off leash, but you know they won't come back if you call them. Or maybe you want a tool that will take your training to the next level. My name is Cheryl Ross, and I'm a professional dog trainer who not only uses e-collar technologies myself, but I train hundreds of my clients to use them as well. Yes, I clearly give this tool and this company a high endorsement, but let me tell you why. It has a level locking feature, which I love because it ensures that even if I accidentally bump the dial, the working level will stay the same. This gives me peace of mind knowing that I'll be communicating at the proper level with my dog. The Mini Educator has 100 different levels of stimulation, which allows for a wide variety of communication. The remote design allows it to fit comfortably in your hand, and the buttons are easy to reach and features a momentary and continuous stimulation. It also has an LED flashlight feature, which allows you to make your dog visible at night. I love this feature and I use it all the time. You might be thinking about buying a cheaper electronic collar that's out there on the market, but those collars more than likely will only have 7 to about 15 levels. That means level 1 is probably already pretty high. Level 2 is really strong. Level 3 is very intense, and it just gets a bit ridiculous from there. With e-collar technology's Mini Educator, a level 20 is similar to a level 1 on those cheaper models. That means that you have 20 levels lower than what you would get with the other collar. This opens up a whole new kind of communication. Rather than yelling at your dog the whole time, this collar allows you to speak at room volume or even a whisper if you need to. When your dog understands that the stimulation is just a continual conversation and not a feeling that is meant to say no in a really loud way, your dog will not only listen to you, but love and respect you as well. So you might be thinking about going for one of those cheaper options on the market. But let me just tell you this, that old saying is true, you get what you pay for, and this is worth every penny. So, that outdoor activity that you've been wanting to do with your dog is now possible with e-collar technologies. Break.
When I first got Sandy, she was an absolute nightmare. She wouldn't behave, she would dig holes in the yard, she would scratch at the furniture, she would bark all the time. Just unruly. So I had a friend who was a dog trainer, and she suggested an e-collar. I was like, e-collar, isn't that not humane? Or I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I decided to give it a try. I purchased the PetSpy e-collar, and voila, Sandy's been a new dog. So I started the e-collar training, and gradually I started to see changes and improvements in the way her behavior was. I couldn't believe how fast Sandy started to change and respond to the training. Feel great. It made me feel great that I didn't have an uncontrollable dog in public and I wasn't embarrassed to bring her in places.